You are listening to Processing Trauma Out Loud, conversations about trauma and healing from two women who are doing the work.
Hey everyone, this is Kandace and Sher with Processing Trauma Out Loud. Sher and I are back to record another episode that it's going to be a little bit of a series for the end of 2024 going into 2025. And the topic that we want to discuss today is, Sher, what role does taking some space to reflect about the past, the present, and maybe, even though we're reflecting what we want the future to be like, why is it significant for us to just create some space to do that?
I think these kind of practices are so helpful anyway. And a lot of times things pop up that kind of surprise us, that, when we reflect, and that can look in a variety of ways. We can just ponder, or maybe we'll get out our calendar and actually page through what were some of the highlights, what were some of the things I experienced. But I think that the fact is that we just forget. And especially when we're on a healing journey like we are, and we're doing things that are very intentional, I believe that it can be super helpful to just take some time and look back over, where was I a year ago? What are some of the things that I remember from where I was a year ago? And how did I walk through some of those things? And who were the people that I walked with? And what were some of the important things that showed up for me in this journey? And I think we do it for the sake of just encouragement that things are changing and we are growing and changing. And that doesn't always feel wonderful. Sometimes it can feel like we're just slogging through the pit. But when we look back, we can see like, oh yeah, there are some significant things that are different today than they were a year ago. And that can be really encouraging.
What's coming up for me is, for some reason, I just went back to like when I reflect on where I was with the level of, I want to say, just emotional pain that I was in 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and ambivalence, confusion, no doubt in my mind that I have been doing the work and that I am in a very different place today. Yeah. I definitely can have some things pop up, but even the way I show up for myself and show up for others is a huge change. Even just hearing myself say these things to you brings so much lightness and joy into my body.
Yeah, because one of the things I'm hearing you say is, I still get triggered, but I respond to triggers differently. Mm-hmm. The way I show up in my relationships is different. One of the things that came to my mind while you were speaking is the things that I am willing to talk about with people has changed. There's less change, or there's less of a feeling like, it's hard for me to talk about that. Or I'm more courageous in bringing up something that's harder, or giving someone a nudge like, oh, are you sure you really want to keep embracing that? So yeah, it's good to notice these things. I'm thinking especially about triggers, because when I think back to 4 years ago, when we started Story Group, 4.5 years ago, we started Story Group together. And where, even though I had been doing a lot of work and you had been too, but I still had so many triggers that I had not figured out how to navigate. And when they popped up for me, they just sidelined me or derailed me. Now I'm noticing more and more that, things will still pop up, or something might be said, or triggers are a funny thing. It can be a smell. It can be something we see. Things will still pop up, but my ability to stay present and go through is just different. And man, that does feel really good to notice that.
When I think about when we first started 4 years ago, is that, especially, so we had been working with our coaches, but then we found the courage to show up in groups, these small groups of women. And I would say most of us, if not all of us, we had levels of hesitancy and fear. And, some of our wounding did come from being in spaces, maybe where people weren't being intentional, but we weren't being seen. And I want to say we weren't being called forth into who we are and to use our voice. And as we have all done that and continue to do that, I've noticed, I'm reflecting on, I have had an expansion in my deep, safe relationships. Like I've added that type of, I don't know. It's so overwhelming at times to think of the authenticity of these women that we meet with and share. I've lost some relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Finding our tribe. I'm reading this book right now where it kind of brings in some concepts of the wolf pack but finding our pack. Where do we belong and where don't we fit? Where maybe we've even been working really hard to fit into certain places that we the more we heal, the more we maybe come to the realization that this space has never felt like home or like I belong here. And finally, I recognize why. And I'm getting the heck out. I don't want to put any more energy here because this is not my place and these are not my people. That's not even to say anything against those people and places that are not ours, but we have found a couple of places and people who are doing this work and who have experienced childhood trauma. And it allows us to show up with them differently than in other spaces in our lives.
Yeah. I love that too. And, when I think of how we come into these spaces, like I said, with some fear and some hesitancy, and then I think for me personally, I have this tendency that I want to know the outcome. I want to figure all this out before I truly let myself be seen. And that just doesn't happen. But what happens if you stay and you are feeling aligned, your resilience grows, like your capacity to be with yourself and to hold the space of others. It really does just continue to grow. And I just believe that's the way it's meant to be. We were created to grow and to expand and to create. And the more we heal, the more space we have.
And I think, too, the more we heal, the more safe we feel internally, so that then when we are triggered or when these topics come up that have been places where we have habitually felt tremendous shame and the need to hide and pretend and perform. And that the more safe we feel just within our own skin and with the people who are our tribe, then when these topics come up again, we do have more courage to be able to step forward and name some things and begin to talk about hurts or experiences or choices or different aspects that have been a part of our life, but we just really have not. The safer we feel internally, the more we are able to go to these hard spaces and then get those things even moving toward healing and coming to the place where we are able to have things renamed and reframed more and more and more, which is then so transforming in our lives.
Yeah, I want to reflect on and normalize the courage that it can sometimes take to take those first steps, to show up, to bring our pain, our longing, our disappointments, our unfulfilled dreams, our hopes, our trauma, to people and groups. If we, one, have never done it before, or two, we have tried in the past and for whatever reason it didn't go well. And so I want to normalize pretty much everybody I know started in that space of needing to access the courage. And I want to say to our listeners, your courage may be buried pretty deep, but it's actually there.
Yeah.
And there will be those that can help you peel off some layers slowly, where you have more and more access to that courage to go after what you are so worthy of, which is to be loved deeply, seen deeply, soothed, and to feel safe and secure in your body, like in your body.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the invitation to not feel like you have to be at this certain space to show up.
And how just we both have experienced one moment of somebody entering our story with kindness in a place where maybe we only had contempt for ourselves, and someone else offering kindness, or someone else giggling when we do something that's playful. Being able to experience joy where we really didn't experience joy before. Like, these are things that then help us begin to experience that level of safety more and more. Because when we don't feel safe, all we can do is protect and survive, because our brain is constantly going into trauma responses of fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. There's no other way until we experience kindness. I was talking with somebody a couple of days ago, and it was someone who I didn't know, and they asked what I do, and I was sharing a little bit about my work as a coach and working with people with childhood trauma. And she made the comment, she said, you must just go home every night and just cry. And I said, oh, I cry with my clients. Like, we cry together, we weep together, because childhood trauma comes from being in that place where we are experiencing something and we have no voice, no choice, and no help. And then now, as adults, when we bring these stories and we have somebody who is tuning in and listening with intention, someone who is offering us voice, someone who is helping us recognize choice, and someone who is just helping us rename and reframe, so that after we tell the story, we walk away even viewing who we are, how we showed up, what we experienced. We just have a different perspective, and it's just one of the most powerful things that I've experienced, and experienced it again and again.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think people almost always know, like if they're listening, especially if they are listening to their bodies, and they almost always know if someone is with them. If we show up, staying connected to ourselves, so we may not be weeping personally over the same way we did when we were in, more of the deeper healing, but the ability to authentically feel what it's like to be awakened to what you needed and you didn't get, you never forget that. Like, it's there.
Yeah.
And so those tears, Sher, that you offer your clients, and I offer my clients, I have had clients tell me they have never experienced what they felt when I wept with them. And I'm like, I know. I had never experienced it either. And it's life-changing.
Yeah. I mean, and it's ongoing. Just last week, as I met with my coach, and I shared something that had happened recently. And actually, I'll share it because it has to do with you, Kandace. And we were together. No, it was good. But we were together a couple of weeks ago, and I was not feeling well. And I'm so disappointed about this, but I literally slept the whole day. I was experiencing such fatigue in my body. And you told me afterward that you had come in to check on me several times. And I was sharing this with my coach and saying that how much it meant to me that you had shared that with me and that you came in to check on me. And that one of our other friends said, is Cher breathing? And you said, well, I'm sure she is. And then you actually even came back to check and make sure. And I was just saying, like, wow, it just meant so much to me. And how my coach said, it's almost making me feel sick to my stomach that small amount of care was so meaningful for you. And then I started to tune into that, like, yeah, I mean, I guess on the scale of really caring things or not having such a huge cost, for you to walk in and check, although you were allowing yourself to be exposed to my illness, but it has enabled me now to experience a little bit more in my body too of, that wasn't a huge thing, but to me, it was a huge thing. So again, just the fact that she heard me and that she allowed me to experience her response opened me up then to feel like, well, what's my response about that? And this is what we can experience in such a multitude of ways when we have somebody who is walking this path with us. So thank you, friend, for...
Well, you're welcome. And I have a confession to make. I was also hoping I'd walk in and you would be wide awake and you would be feeling better. And we would be like, get your butt out here.
I know.
But so it was this genuine desire to check on you. And then there was just hope there.
Yeah.
Because we missed your presence in our group time that day. And yeah, I love what you're naming, what your coach said, because think about this. What would it be like if you were like, yeah, you just have this expectation that when people love you and care about you, they actually come check on you. If you don't have that, it's a big like, oh, I had to become very self-sufficient and very independent, even when I was sick. Mm-hmm. And friend, I have that same story. So if I'm ever sick.
Yeah, I will be there.
Come baby me.
Checking your pulse. And yeah, we need that care. And I guess I'll just do a little wrap here on this aspect of reflecting, because we need that kind of tenderness and care, even though we're adult women and we've raised children and we've offered that to our kids, not perfectly, but we've offered it. But as I reflect back on the last year, one of the most precious things to me is truly the tenderness that I experience in my relationships with the people who are part of my tribe, and where I can show up and say, I'm sad, or I'm hurting, or I'm this, or I'm that. And I'm met with kindness and compassion and invitation and welcome. It's just one of the most beautiful things now in my life. And I'm just deeply grateful for that.
I'll share my last thing, because what you shared made me think about how I'm reflecting on, so this writing my memoir is definitely taking longer and getting it completely ready than I thought that it would. But I'm reflecting on the women in my life who not only don't have envy or comparison or threat, are like helping me unfold in this way with my calling. And that has just been something that I'm not only sinking into with so much gratitude myself. I want to do that for other women authentically,
Yeah.
Yeah, so we will be back next week with a new topic, and that topic will be...
I know. I'm looking too. Isn't that funny? Releasing. What do we want to release as we kind of close out this year? Is there some one or two things that we want to let go of as we step forward into the next year? So yeah, we'll talk about that next time.
Okay, sounds good, friend. Love you so much.
I love you too, Kandace.
Thank you for listening to Processing Trauma Out Loud. Make sure to check out the show notes for links to suggested resources and social media. Like, subscribe, and follow to keep up with our weekly content. And if you don't mind, take a moment to rate and review us. Your feedback is extremely valuable and contributes to the success of this podcast. One last thing. If you have found this podcast helpful in any way, or if you have questions on how to take the next steps on your healing journey, please reach out to us via email at KandaceSher@gmail.com. That's KandaceSher@gmail.com. Our sound engineer is Jeremiah Jones of Auditory LLC. We welcome you to join us for more conversations soon. Take care.